Hello, my name is David, but I'm also known as the Critter Keeper, and today I've brought along what I like to call my critter crew. They're here on my table surrounding me. Some are on the floor as well, so I'm going to show you them. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, and there's maybe some animals that you've never seen before. Okay. So now the first one I'm going to show you, he's probably my most popular animal, and he's the one that everybody wants to meet, but unfortunately he is also one of the most mischievous. And I cannot let him out of his carry cage, mainly for the safety of the other animals. Left to his own devices, he could open up some of these boxes and start eating half of my animals. So that wouldn't be very good. But what I will do is I'll take him and I'll adjust the camera so you can see him nice and clearly in his carry cage. And I've also got some treats for him as well, so we could feed him, okay? So he is under the table. So here comes the first one. He is a little bit heavy. I will adjust the camera so you can see him nice and clearly. Here we go. This is Rocket, and Rocket is my raccoon. So raccoons, they're found in Canada, all the way through the United States of America and parts of northern Mexico too. So they do cover the entire United States. So that's a very big country. So really well-adapted animals survive the different climate that country could throw at them. So they can survive the extreme colds of the winters of Canada, Northern America, to the very dry, hot desert regions, Nevada, Vegas, Arizona, to the swampy Everglades in Florida and swampy New Orleans. Now, they're not really well-liked animals throughout Canada or America because they're quite smart. See the way he's eating his treat there with his front feet. They have an excellent sense of smell, so they can sniff out food in your property and cause a fair bit of destruction just to get in to get at that food. It wouldn't be a surprise if you got them going through your wheelie bins and through your rubbish. So in America and Canada, they like to call them trash pandas. They are classed as an invasive species, which means they're concerned the wrong kind of people buy raccoons as pets. They escape, they reproduce, then you have a massive raccoon problem on your hands. No natural predator here in the UK of a raccoon, so these guys would take over. So there we go, that is Rocket, my raccoon. He's super cool, isn't he? Now, I know he does look a bit cute and cuddly. He's not really that cuddly. He's actually got quite a wiry fur, and he's a typical boy. He has bonded with me, but he doesn't really like cuddles. He prefers fighting. Raccoons are extremely playful animals, and when they play quite rough. And he has got very sharp teeth and very sharp claws. Let's give him one more treat, and I'll put him back under the table so you can enjoy that. There you go, Rocket. We'll say goodbye. Bye, Rocket.
Okay. Where does Rocket normally live when he isn't in his carrier?
Okay, so Rocket actually has the largest enclosure out of all of the animals I have. And his, obviously you can't go and buy something like a raccoon enclosure, so it has to be, made specially for him. So it's actually a kind of converted dog kennel, but it's indoors, and it's got like a big climbing frame because they like climbing. It's got like 3 floors, so he can climb up lots of little hidey holes. But he's also very good at toilet train. He's toilet trained, so he goes to toilet and litter trade because he did actually used to live in my house. But once it's just so he could bond with me. But once they get to a certain age, they start to become quite destructive and start wrecking things. So it's not a good idea to have a raccoon in your house. So you have to have a special enclosure for them, so that mainly for his own safety as well. So yeah, he lives in his own enclosure, and the largest out of all the other animals. Go. This is Kaa, and Kaa is my royal python. Now, he's not a dangerous snake, okay? So he's not venomous. He's a constricting snake. So that's the snakes that squeeze their dinner to death.
What does the python do when he's digesting his food?
Well, what happens is it's quite cool, actually. All pythons, the anaconda and boa constrictors do this. They actually increase the size of their internal organs. So their heart, liver, lungs, intestines double in size. So that speeds up the process of digestion. Because if it's left too long in their stomach, it will rot and make them poorly. So that's why they have to digest it as quick as possible. So basically increasing the size of their internal organs, it speeds up that process so it can get done. And the acids in the tummy basically break it down. And then it goes into their, they just basically poo it out, just like us. Ta-da! This is Crimmit, and Crimmit is my white tree frog. Now, he's a tree frog, which means he lives in the trees. So he's got very sticky feet, so he can stick to leaves, stick to branches. Now, before we say goodbye to Crimmit, would you guys like to hear a disgusting fact about frogs? Yeah, thought you might. All frogs physically eat with their eyeballs. Now you're thinking, what? How do they do that? That's a bit weird. Well, it is a little bit. They're similar to snakes. They don't chew their dinner. They also swallow it down whole. But you see, they don't have that special jaw like the snake has. So they have to be particular about what they shove in their mouth. These guys, they are notoriously greedy eaters. They sometimes take on prey too big for their mouth. So here's how the eyes help them. When the food is in their mouth, they physically sink the eyeballs down into their skull. The eyeballs are now touching the food that's in their mouth and pushing it into their stomach for them. So they physically push and squeeze the food down into their stomach using their eyeballs. Oh, that's a bit weird. Do you think they see their food when they do that? No. I think that would be a bit too weird. Excuse me. I guess they got to watch they don't swallow their own eyeballs as well. Yeah, they'd have to puke them back up again or wait for them to come out the other end. Let's demonstrate. I do have some bugs here. Let's demonstrate and see that in action, okay? I'm going to use some tongs this time because this guy, he'll try and eat my fingers. And I'm going to bring him up close to the screen. So we've got another Morio worm here. And just keep an eye on his eyes, okay? Initially, it'll go into his mouth, and then his eyes will disappear once he's swallowing it, okay? Here we go. You ready? Rim it. Look, it's a bug. Oh, no. Keep an eye on his eyes. Ready? And wait till he swallows. Oh, he put one eye down there. You gonna swallow again? Let's see if he swallows again. Maybe the bug wasn't big enough. There we go. And pop. See? Spring down, pop back up again. Weird. You're never going to look at a frog the same way again now, are you?
Has the frog ever gone ribbit?
Not all frogs make a ribbit sound, see? Frogs make all different noises to communicate. Cricket actually makes a sound a bit like a baby crying. So when you hear, he goes, "Wah!" And that's the noise he makes. So a lot of tree frogs do similar noises. So they all have different sounds. I had the lucky enough to go to Florida a couple of years ago, and my mother-in-law and mother and father-in-law have a villa, and it's right on the edge of the Everglades. And at night time, the sun goes down, and my mother-in-law said to me, "You'll start hearing all the birds singing." And then right enough, what was this like cheeping noise? And I said, "That's not birds, it's frogs." So she thought it was birds. See, so some of them make sounds like birds. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that hissing. Noisy. Here we go. This is my giant Madagascan hissing cockroach. So that's a very large species of cockroach which is found in Madagascar. Now, sadly, whenever I say the word cockroach, adults especially tend to make silly faces and funny noises. But they're not actually disgusting animals. These guys are actually quite clean. Yes, we can sometimes find the cockroach in a disgusting place, but that doesn't make the animal disgusting. The reason why we have cockroach on the planet is because they're are basically the janitors of the world. They clean up the environment. This particular species of cockroach, it's only found in the rainforest of Madagascar, and it helps keep the rainforest clean.
How do insects clean up the planet? This question came when you talked about the cockroach.
Okay, yeah. So basically, mainly cockroaches. So cockroaches are very good at eating up decaying matter, and it doesn't have to just be plant life. You know, when you go on holiday to a nice warm country and you switch the light on, you see the cockroaches scurrying away in your hotel room or villa. Now, usually you see them mainly in the kitchen area or the bathroom. Now, the reason why they're in the kitchen area is because you prepare food, crumbs fall onto the floor, go under units, the cockroaches can fit under there, and they'll eat it all up, okay, and get rid of it. If they're in the bathroom, they're actually eating human hair, dead skin. They're one of the only animals that are capable of eating and digesting human hair. So, yeah, and that's what they do. You could actually go, there's actually a place in China that recycle rubbish using cockroaches. And it's fascinating. They have a cockroach farm, massive building. And basically what they do is all the food waste that you put in your bin gets taken to this place and put into this massive warehouse full of millions of cockroaches. And they eat all that waste and poop it down through special grates. And all that is then used to fertilize plants on the same place for growing vegetables. So it's all to do with recycling. So it's amazing how they do it. And it won't be surprised if it starts taking off in other countries other than China. So, yeah. This is the largest species of spider on our planet, and they're called tarantulas. They're big, they're bulky, and they're very, very hairy, but they're really not that scary. There's not a single species of tarantula anywhere on our planet that is highly venomous. That doesn't mean it wouldn't be sore if one of these guys would bite you, because yes, they do have some pretty big fangs, but the pain from the venom, similar to getting stung by a bee or a wasp. So your life's not going to be in danger, and nobody has ever died as a result of being bitten by a tarantula. It's actually a smaller, true species of spider which could be potentially dangerous. The top 5 dangerous spiders on the planet: number 1, Sydney funnelweb; number 2, Brazilian wandering spider; number 3, the redback; number 4, black widow; number 5, the brown recluse. Those are your top 5 dangerous spiders, not tarantulas. Now, the worst thing about a tarantula in the majority of species is they have what you call an irritating hair. They are covered in hair all over the legs, all over the abdomen, the large part of the back there. So when they feel scared or threatened, they will kick at that hair using their rear legs to send those hairs up into the air. Should those hairs hook up into, onto your skin, you're going to get all itchy and you're going to come up in a rash. That's the worst thing about the tarantula, not the bite. This spider here, her name is Incy Wincy. Incy Wincy is my Brazilian salmon pink bird-eating tarantula. Yep, you heard me right. She can eat birds. How impressive is that? That's not her main diet. She prefers eating insects, but she is very capable of taking on small birds, small rodents like mice, lizards, amphibians like our tree frog, and even small species of snake. Awesome predators, do what they do best: hunt and kill prey. But you see, all spiders don't actually have a mouth. So now you're thinking, how can they possibly eat dinner then if they don't have a mouth? What do they use? They use their fangs. The fangs at the front are not capable of taking large items into their body in one go. So what they do is they bite their prey, inject the venom. This disables, eventually kills the prey. Then they inject a digesting juice, a bit like the acids in our tummy. This breaks the food down on the outside so they can suck it back up through their fangs like straws. See, a lot of people think spiders suck the blood of their victims. They don't. They suck everything. They just liquidize it first. Basically, spiders turn their food into smoothies. This here is Anastasia. Anastasia is my Horsfield or Russian tortoise. I'm not sure why though, because she's quite slow. Anastasia, she's very proud of her shell. She likes to show her shell off. She's going to show you how her shell goes right the way around her body. You ready, Anastasia? 1, 2, 3, and ta-da! So you can see, look, the shell goes right the way around her body. Now, that is not her home. It's there to protect her. So when she's scared, she'll poke her head right back in. Front feet will go up in front to protect her further. The shell is all part of her skeleton. It's all made of bone. And the material that covers the shell, it's the same as your fingernails. It's just a layer to protect the bone underneath. She is the oldest animal that I'm going to show you today. She is actually 15 years old. And she can live for around about 60 years. That's quite a long time for an animal to live. But there are some tortoise that can live even longer, over 150 years. But that's your really big ones like your Albra or Galapagos tortoise. Now, she is a herbivore, which means she's a plant eater. So she only eats plants and the occasional fruit. Now, you see, before I get any animal, I need to do as much research as I possibly can, just so I can give that animal the best possible care. So when I found out I was getting myself a tortoise, I thought I better do some research. Yeah. So off I went. I went down to the library and I said to the librarian, "Do you have any books on tortoise?" She said, "Hardback." And I said, "Yeah, it's got a little head and feet as well." When I was at school, I used to have a teacher and we used to call her Miss Terrapin. And now you're thinking, why? Well, it's because she taught us. Look how scary that is. Oh my goodness. Super scary. This is Spike. And Spike is my African pygmy hedgehog. Now, he's not a baby. He's pretty much fully grown. Won't get much bigger than this. They're actually a small species of hedgehog which originate from Africa. They're actually a hybrid hedgehog, so technically don't exist in the wild, but they have been bred from hedgehogs that do, mainly Algerian and Egyptian hedgehogs to create the African pygmy hedgehog. It's mainly for the pet industry. But just like the hedgehogs that live here, the European hedgehog, they do have spikes all over the top of their body. And when they get scared, they tuck their head in their feet and they become a complete ball of spikes. Now, these spikes are very, very, very sharp. So you shouldn't really touch hedgehogs if you do see them outside in your garden or in the street. Two reasons. One, the spikes are extremely sharp. But two, wild hedgehogs, majority of the time, are carrying nasty bugs, mites and ticks. So it's best to stay away. But it's very beneficial to have the hedgehog come into your garden, especially if you like to keep your garden nice with flowers or grow your own vegetables, because hedgehogs' favorite food, it is the pests that are snails and slugs. So they'll get rid of all the snails and slugs in your garden. So if you know a hedgehog likes to come into your garden, you can feed them extra food. You get them cat food, dog food, make them scrambled eggs. Never, ever give hedgehogs milk. It is bad for them and it can actually kill them. Look at that little beady little eyes. Oh, and his nose and those ears. Hideous. Goodbye. Bye, Spike. He's a little bit cheeky and he does like an audience, but unfortunately he doesn't quite understand these virtual sessions. He just thinks it's me and him. So half the time he pleases himself, so you might wander off, but hopefully he'll interact with me a little bit. So here we go. Here's the last one. And up we go. Come on then. So this is Popeye, and Popeye is my Senegal parrot. So Senegal parrots are found in Senegal, funny enough, which is a country on the west coast of Africa. So these guys only eat fruit, nut, and seeds. So they're mainly found in the forest there, but they can also be found in farmers' fields eating their crops. Now they are a flock bird, so there tends to be quite a lot of them. Farmers don't like them for eating their crops, so they're a bit of a nuisance. Now, Popeye here is the only animal, apart from my dog, where I know his exact date of birth. So on his right foot, I don't know if he's gone the wrong way, there we go. He's trying to show you his right foot. He's got a ring on his foot, and that's got his date of birth. It was put on not long after he was born. So it's got his birthday stamped on it. So he was actually born on the 5th of January, 2011. So that makes him 10 years old, and he can live anywhere from 30 up to 50 years. So quite a long time. Now, sadly, Popeye here is one of my rehomed animals. So a lot of the animals I have in my care are rescued and abandoned exotic animals, and Popeye here is one of them. You see, Popeye used to belong to an old gentleman who was sadly diagnosed with dementia. He had to go into full-time care, and he couldn't take his bird with him. So Popeye moved in next door with his neighbors. Now, when you own an animal like this, they bond extremely well with their human companion, and Popeye got very upset and very sad his human friend had disappeared. He blamed the neighbors for taking him away from him. So he hated the neighbors, and the neighbors contacted me and said, "We have an evil little bird. Can you take him?" Now, Popeye wasn't that evil. You were just a little bit, weren't you? Yeah. But it didn't take very long before Popeye made a new friend in me. Popeye, kisses. Yeah, and again. And we can hear his kissy noises. Now, a lot of people think parrots can talk. Not all parrots can talk. There's only a handful of birds that can mimic human voice. I'll make a few more sounds and hopefully Popeye will copy me. So he did this kissy sound. You're going to try and click, click, click. Or you're just going to groom yourself. Click. There we go. Good boy. We try whistle. Oh, that's a click. Unlike you lot, Popeye does tend to laugh at my jokes, though. Why is there no aspirin in the rainforest? Because the parrots eat them all. No. Well, before I even got a bird, I used to go to the pet shop quite a lot. And I would say to the pet shop man, "Hey, do you have any bird seed?" He'd say, "Yeah, I've got loads of bird seed. How many birds have you got?" I said, "I don't have any yet. I'm trying to grow some." While I was in the pet shop, I also managed to buy myself a budgie. It only cost me £1. Cheap. So there we go. That is Popeye.
Is why can parrots talk?
Well, basically, all birds can communicate with one another to just making sounds. So if you go outside, you'll obviously hear birds tweeting. So they're just basically communicating with one another. So some parrots have a better vocal cords than others, so they can then make more difficult sounds and present it in a way where it basically sounds like they're talking. So that's why you can train some birds. especially in captivity, because they usually they're around other birds of their own kind, so they communicate with one another. But if they're kept on their own and they want to communicate with their human, so they'll copy sounds that you make. So that's why they do that. You just communicate.
What music does Popeye like?
Oh, music. Yeah, well, he usually travels. He's actually the only animal that travels in the front of the truck with me when I go out and about. The rest of them are all in the back of the truck, and he's the one that sits in the front, and he does like music. And it's quite funny. He seems to like Jerry Cinnamon. It's an artist that I had never really heard of before, and somebody had said, "Oh, you should listen to this." And Popeye just became fascinated with it and started dancing away to it. So he seems to be a Jerry Cinnamon fan.
It says, my son would love to grow up to be like yourself and give talks in schools about snakes and other reptiles. Any advice on what he needs to be studying and looking at? He's 9.
Yeah, just obviously knowledge is obviously a huge thing. So the more you read about animals, and if it's something that you're passionate about, you'll remember interesting things about, because the more you learn about different animals, the more fascinating they become. So you can learn interesting facts about them, and that's what makes it interesting. So just stick in at school, carry on learning about different animals. Obviously, when you're at school, you pick science subject. Biology would be the best one for you if you're wanting to learn about animals, and just basically go from there. Having obviously animals in your care as well does obviously help with your knowledge. But I'm not sure if your mum will be too happy you're having snakes and spiders in your house, so you have to maybe work on that a bit.
How much time do you spend with your animals in a day, and how many do you have?
That's a good question. We have around about 80 animals in total. So when I say 80, it does sound a lot to a lot of people, but then if you count them individually, then you're talking thousands. You saw the cockroach, Mr. Tickles. Now I have 4 different types of cockroach species. And within each colony of cockroach, easy over 300 cockroaches. I also have a European black ant colony, which has about 1,000 ants in it. So if you count them individually, then you're talking a lot. But individual, different types of animals, about 80. And I spend, if I'm not doing, obviously, because I do a lot of presentation with the main group of animals that you saw here, very good. And I do have some others that I use as well for main presentations. So if I'm not doing that with that, I can spend about an hour a day just feeding the animals. But if it's a day where I'm having to clean out, so that I usually have, that's like once a week where I have a major clean, and I can be in the critter room for 6-7 hours. Yeah. So it can be a long day. But if it's just feeding, then it's just usually about an hour. So this is just a small selection of the animals I do have in my care. I do have a lot more at home. If you are interested in seeing the other animals, best way to do that would be check out my website. It's thecritterkeeper.com. Various different links to social media. So you get us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to look at pictures of the animals. There's also a YouTube channel for watching videos. Thank you ever so much for coming along and seeing us.